Has anybody else noticed that it seems like the church is being fought against right now? Matter of fact, during COVID, it seems like there's been government and oversteps and things taking place that is just fighting against the church. Some of us call it persecution. Whatever you would call it, I want you to know that I feel it too. Many people feel it. You can see it all over the news. But this isn't the first time this has happened, and Jesus wants to teach us something about that in the book of Revelation. Join me now. Hello everyone, welcome to week 2 of our study of the 7 churches of Revelation, often known as the 7 churches of Asia. This is written in Revelation chapter 2. Last week we looked at the church of Ephesus, and this week we are looking at the church of Smyrna. This is another word from Jesus spoken to God. And in Revelation chapter 2 through 3, we are learning that where John shares with 7 churches of Revelation that he received from Jesus addressed to them. In Revelation chapter 2, 8 through 11, we see this announcement to the church of Smyrna. Jesus, who was resurrected from the dead, knows firsthand the affliction and poverty the church in Smyrna is facing. But in spite of their hard situation, they are rich in their faith. We must know as people that material wealth is not an indicator of God's love for you. Let's read from Revelation chapter 2, 8 through 11. It says, "To the angel of the church in Smyrna, these are the words of him who is first and the last, who died and came to life again. I know your afflictions and your poverty, yet you are rich. I know about the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days. Be faithful even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. The one who is victorious will not be hurt at all by the second death." So, here's the deal. Jesus is letting this church know that he understands what they're going through. He understands the persecution. But to have joy in it, to be faithful in it, to not allow this persecution to turn them away from what they know is right. He says, be faithful even to the point of death. Some of us have a lot, some of us have a little. And poor Christians with low standing in society should remember all the blessings and the inheritance they have waiting for them in Christ Jesus. That what we have here and now doesn't reflect what we will have in heaven. No matter who you are and what you have, Christ equalizes all of us. Christ will equalize all of us. In Christ, our identity is given, not earned. We can all look to Jesus for hope as we are all equal before the cross. In John's address to Smyrna, Jesus encourages the believers there not to be afraid of the suffering and persecution they have and will endure. And we must not either. They will be tested, and so will we. But their faithfulness will lead to receiving the crown of life that awaits all followers in Christ. Let me read that again. They will be tested. We will be tested. Our church will be tested. You will be tested. But our faithfulness will lead to receiving the crown of life that awaits all followers of Christ. Even when life is hard, those in Christ have nothing to fear. For at Jesus' return and his final judgment, they will not face rejection from God. If we have our faith in Christ, we will not be rejected by God. Instead, we will receive forgiveness and grace as we enter into his new kingdom. This means that ultimately evil does not win. It may not feel good now, but it does not win in the end. That isn't to downplay the difficulties and suffering we experience in this life. But It encourages us that our suffering won't last forever and evil won't have the final word. So even as we see this world pushing back against us, pushing back against our church, we must understand, as Jesus encourages the church of Smyrna, that evil will not win. And somebody needs to hear that today. The church needs to stand on that today, that no matter what comes against us, the evil will not win. Today's challenge is this: share with God one thing that is causing you pain. Ask him to move in that situation and tell him that no matter what he does, you will trust him through it. In James chapter 1, 9 through 12, I want you to hear this. It says, "Believers who are poor have nothing to boast about, for God has honored them. And those who are rich should boast that God has humbled them. They will fade away like a little flower in the field. The hot sun rises and the grass withers. The little flower droops and falls, and its beauty fades away. In the same way, the rich will fade away with all of their achievements. God blesses those who are patiently endured testing and temptation. Afterward, they will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him." And I love what James says even a little bit earlier in James chapter 1, verse 2. And many of you know this tonight. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For we know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing." I want somebody to hear tonight that the pain, the problems, and the pushback you're going through, on the other end of it, there's so much opportunity and possibility for you. Don't let the pain and the pushback, the troubles, the enemy convince you that you have no way out. God has something on the other side. So consider it great joy, church. Consider it great joy as the enemy tries to fight. For Jesus affirmed to the church of Smyrna, who was doing great things and had great faith, "Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. I tell you, the devil will put you through some tests and you will suffer persecution. But be faithful even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown." That's a promise from Jesus to his church of Smyrna. And it's a promise for you and I too. Stay faithful. Stay persistent. Don't give up. Thank you so much for joining me tonight as we continue this study of the 7 churches of Revelation. I hope you join me again next week for this short 10-minute teaching. But I would love for you to join me this Sunday at 10:30 a.m. right here in person or online on our Facebook page. You can learn more about our church by going to www.knoxfirstchurch.com. We believe that life is better when God is first. Have a blessed evening.